The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway. And that's when I start to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is dead?
That's really bad. Now, Disney, I'm not here to try to save you money, but Bob Iger obviously does not have control over all the wokies.
Be brilliant in casting because, as Rachel Zegler says, her millions of fans will line up no matter what she does to see her.
And I can only hope that despite my flaws and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them.
Look at this acting.
That at every
And Snow White demonstrates exactly of a company gone wrong. There you have Rachel Zegler. That's like, oh, well, it's not like how it was in the 1930s.
Experience wasn't that painful for many people as, well, nobody was there. There's videos like this, thousands of them all across the internet, of 0 tickets being sold for Snow White. Here's another.
So Rachel Zegler stepping into the Snow White 2025 remake? Yeah. That decision went down like a lead balloon. Fans of the 1937 classic? Absolutely fuming. Modern audiences? Skeptical at best. And Disney? Well, they're out here trying to reinvent the wheel and somehow turning it into a square. Let's be real. The moment Rachel opened her mouth and called the original plot outdated, it was game over. You're starring in a Disney classic, not rewriting Game of Thrones. Calling out a beloved fairy tale like that? Bold, risky, and kind of a PR nightmare. And then there's the attitude, like dismissing the charm of the original film like it's just yesterday's TikTok trend. Add in some juicy behind-the-scenes drama, and boom, this movie started looking less like a magical reboot and more like a full-blown train wreck in slow motion.
One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
Rachel Zegler's rumored dispute with Gal Gadot was already making headlines, but things took a wild turn when an episode of South Park aired an unmistakable parody mocking the Snow White fiasco, including a caricature of Rachel herself. The episode, though brief, went viral within minutes, and suddenly everyone was talking about it. Within hours, reports emerged that Rachel Zegler was absolutely livid over the portrayal, feeling it added a fresh layer of ridicule to an already messy situation inside Disney. And honestly, you can't blame her. Imagine this. You're already dealing with massive backlash from your film. The set drama is public, and now South Park is adding fuel to the fire by poking fun at you in front of millions. Not exactly the smooth experience she probably signed up for. Rachel was reportedly fuming, claiming that the parody was just another slap in the face to an already disastrous situation. On one side, the film's getting slammed. On the other, there's all this behind-the-scenes drama, and now South Park comes in like, let's make this even worse.
It is the first American feature-length animated movie, 1937. It's one of the most beloved movies of all time.
It's like Disney couldn't catch a break, and all this mess just made things way more awkward for Rachel. The reaction was pure panic, like Disney wasn't already drowning under Bob Iger's leadership. With flop releases, The Daredevil, Born Again, Mess on Disney+, and all the worries about how the latest Marvel entries were performing, the last thing they needed was a Snow White getting roasted by South Park. And yet, here we are. The fact that South Park was coming for Snow White just added fuel to the fire, as if Disney wasn't already panicking enough. It wasn't just another film failure at this point. Now Disney's whole brand was taking shots from a show that makes fun of absolutely everything. South Park wasn't pulling any punches, and that turned a tricky situation into a full-on PR disaster. Disney was already on the edge, and this was just the push they didn't need. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, every move making it worse. The mockery wasn't just embarrassing, it was a public humiliation. Now, instead of talking about a magical reboot, all anyone could think of was how Disney had gone from classic to clueless. Executives were sweating bullets, not because of the movie itself, but because their entire reputation was spiraling in front of millions, all thanks to a satirical cartoon. Yeah, it was that bad.
Our rights are on the line, folks.
Bitch! The right to buy Cosby sweaters?
Come on.
That's the face of a serial killer.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
South Park? Not exactly strangers to controversy. These creators have shredded celebrities and pop culture icons with sharp humor that usually leaves the target reeling. But this time, they took it to a whole new level. The satirical version of Rachel Zegler wasn't just throwing shade. She was straight up berating everyone around her, trashing the 1937 Snow White in the most over-the-top way possible, while declaring that this new production was all about saving society. Oh, and she totally ignored the opinions of both her co-stars and the fictional Disney execs, like they were just extras in her personal drama. The moment that parody aired, the internet lost it. Memes went viral faster than you can blink. Fans went full detective mode, dissecting every comedic jab, and people started wondering if Disney's higher-ups would even bother responding to this level of mockery. Clips exploded on social media, with users pointing out how a South Park's exaggerations seemed eerily accurate to real interviews Rachel Zegler had given. The most memorable? The overblown meltdown when Snow White realized she was stealing all the spotlight from the evil queen. People couldn't help but notice how the fictional breakdown seemed to mirror the drama already happening behind the scenes. It was like watching real-life chaos get turned into a comedic masterpiece, and the internet was here for it.
Disney. Disney has Snow White in theaters right now, and Disney decided to hire the most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White, to play Snow White.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Some who were barely aware of the Snow White controversy suddenly found themselves sucked into the madness, all thanks to South Park's comedic lens. The aftermath? Absolute chaos. Hashtags like Tjark Snow White fiasco and Rachel Zegler were trending like wildfire, and they weren't just about the movie anymore. Bob Iger's leadership? Yeah, that was getting dragged too, along with all of Disney's broader woes. Word quickly spread that Rachel Zegler was privately livid about the parody, and it wasn't just the typical celeb frustration. She reportedly felt blindsided. Industry insiders were spilling the tea, claiming Rachel saw this whole thing coming out of nowhere. According to sources close to her camp, she felt like she was being thrown under the bus for some cheap laughs. It wasn't just about the mockery of the film. For Rachel, it felt like her personal integrity was getting shredded by a satirical caricature. And considering the mess she was already dealing with, this was just the icing on a very bitter cake. The comedic take on Rachel, unforgiving and downright cruel. Now, South Park didn't just poke fun at her. They painted her as a full-blown, unhinged diva who supposedly had nothing but disdain for the original to Snow White. The way they twisted her character into someone who despised the beloved 1937 film. That was a low blow, and the exaggerated portrayal made it all worse. Rumor has it, Rachel was actually thinking about stepping in to set the record straight, maybe even release a statement clarifying her thoughts on the classic, but Disney was having none of it. They allegedly pressured her to stay silent, fearing that if she spoke out, it would just fan the flames even more. Meanwhile, Disney was already on a damage control mission, trying to minimize Rachel's public appearances on major talk shows and events. And let's face it, that only made the situation even more tense. The last thing Disney wanted was for their star to spiral further into controversy, so they figured it'd be easier to keep her out of the spotlight, even if it meant sacrificing their own credibility in the process. The whole thing just started feeling like a corporate chess game, where Disney was trying to control everything, but instead, they were just making things worse. Up to the South Park debacle, things were already starting to feel a little off. Talk show appearances and promotional gigs for Rachel Zegler were mysteriously being canceled left and right. Official reasons? Oh, the classic scheduling conflicts and unforeseen adjustments. But let's be real. Insiders knew the real deal. Disney was trying to keep Rachel out of the public eye, hoping to avoid any more potential PR disasters. Why? Because Rachel's past interviews, where she boldly claimed she was revolutionizing the Snow White story, had already put her in the crosshairs of fans who were loyal to the original. Those comments didn't just stir the pot, they alienated a whole section of the audience, the very fans Disney needed to back the new project. Now, the last thing Disney wanted was for their star to make things worse, so they decided to keep her on a tight leash, hoping it would cool the tension before the whole situation blew up. Whispers of tension between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot started circulating after an awkward award ceremony appearance, where the two barely acknowledged each other. Not even a glance. It wasn't just some awkward moment, it fueled rumors of a serious rift behind the scenes, making it clear that something was seriously off with this production. Meanwhile, Disney execs were running around like headless chickens, realizing that their golden formula of reimagining old classics wasn't working quite as smoothly as they'd hoped. The result? Frantic meetings and heated debates about how to handle Rachel's increasingly vocal and outspoken stance. This wasn't just about a celebrity being themselves anymore. It was about a growing crisis within the company that could derail their whole strategy. The tensions were becoming undeniable, and Disney was realizing they couldn't keep everything locked behind closed doors for much longer. Some folks started questioning whether Disney went a little too hard in trying to reinvent the magic of the 1937 The Snow White. The whole thing felt like a blunt force attempt to breathe new life into a classic, but in doing so, they completely shattered the charm that made the original film so beloved, changing key story elements to push a modern-day message. Well, that definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. The risk. The movie might lose the magic that made it a timeless classic, but of course, others countered with the argument that today's audiences are all about current values. They said the reimagined version should reflect a contemporary viewpoint, even if it meant sacrificing the original's nostalgic appeal. So, here we are, a clash between those who wanted to preserve the sacred elements of the film and those who were pushing for a version that spoke to today's world. It was an ongoing battle of opinions, and neither side was backing down. Some critics started saying that Disney really overdid it, trying to update the 1937 The Snow White. It was like they went into full wrecking ball mode, destroying the most cherished elements of the original story just to force feed a modern message. Sure, the intention was to bring something fresh, but in the process, they risked ruining the timeless charm that made the original such a classic. There were others, though, who defended the move, arguing that today's audiences are all about modern values and that a reimagined Snow White should reflect today's world. They said it was only right to give the story a contemporary twist, even if it meant stepping on the toes of the original version. Now, this battle of old school charm versus modern day relevance was sparking some serious division, with passionate debates all around about which approach was more fitting for the story of Snow White in the 21st century. No clear consensus ever emerged, and the drama only spiraled further into the public eye. That's when South Park entered the picture, taking aim at the entire saga and giving it a brutal spotlight. The show didn't just poke fun at Rachel's controversial remarks about the 1937 Snow White being outdated and unrepresentative of modern sensibilities. It blasted the whole ordeal into the mainstream. In a matter of days, the entire controversy became a full-blown pop culture spectacle, completely hijacked by the animated comedy's sharp take. It wasn't just about one actress trashing a classic anymore, or even a rumored feud with her co-star. No, this became the kind of media wildfire that everyone was talking about, with memes, hot takes, and debates flooding social media. South Park didn't just add fuel to the fire, it made it explode in all directions, turning Rachel's comments into a national talking point. The whole situation had shifted gears. It wasn't just about a film anymore, it was about how Snow White 2025 had become a laughingstock to the point that even a cartoon known for its brutal humor, and South Park, had jumped into the ring to take its shots. Critics had a field day, and they weren't shy about pointing out that this was serious trouble for a movie that already had one foot in the grave. The last thing this film needed was more negative attention. But as the weekend rolled in, the social media sleuths began their work. Users started spotting what they believed to be cryptic posts from Rachel Zegler herself, dripping with frustration and irritation. Was she throwing subtle shade at the parody? It was hard to say for sure, but it sure seemed like it. Her posts seemed like the kind of thing that could only add fuel to the fire, creating even more buzz and speculation. As the drama unfolded, people started questioning whether this whole comedic caricature trend was overshadowing the actual conversations about progress. Sure, like South Park's approach was hilarious, but some fans couldn't help but feel it was a bit too much, reducing a nuanced discussion to nothing more than a punchline. Still, for many others, the satirical take was just a reflection of the public's growing frustration with Disney cranking out yet another remake that felt like a direct assault assault on a beloved classic. Instead of feeling like an exciting reinvention, it came across as just another attempt to push an agenda. Reactions were all over the place. You had new memes popping up everywhere, poking fun at the idea of Snow White being some kind of social justice warrior on a mission to fix society. In a way, those memes were as much about the frustration with Disney's reboot culture as they were about the film itself. As hinted at in the South Park parody, Disney's response, or lack thereof, was nothing short of disastrous. The company, for its part, seemed utterly paralyzed, either unwilling or unable to mount an effective defense. Executives were reportedly terrified that responding to the parody would only invite more ridicule. And let's be honest, they weren't wrong. History has shown that any public condemnation from a target only gives South Park more material to work with. But the complete radio silence from Disney, that only fueled the fire. It gave the impression that the company was in full-blown crisis mode, sparking rumors that meetings involving Bob Iger and the board of directors were happening around the clock as they scrambled to find a way to stop Snow White 2025 from completely sinking into the epic failure category. At this point, it wasn't just a film. They were fighting to keep their entire reputation from going up in flames. At this point, it seemed like the damage had already been done. Every new leak, whether it was about Rachel's growing frustration or the never-ending comedic roast on television, only pulled the focus further away from the movie itself and into the circus of controversy surrounding it. Instead of Snow White 2025 being the center of attention, it was all about the drama. Talk about a PR disaster. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler's relationship with Disney was unraveling faster than a Disney princess running from a villain. Insiders whispered that she felt like the company had left her out to dry, refusing to step in and defend her when the criticism started piling up. She allegedly believed that Disney's decision to cancel her talk show appearances wasn't just bad for her image. It was a direct violation of her contract, which was supposed to guarantee promotional opportunities. As the tension escalated, her reps started quietly exploring the possibility of legal action. A messy breakup between a star and a studio? Sounds like a potential new Hollywood drama in itself. The whole lawsuit thing? No one could figure out if it was just a negotiation tactic or a real plan, but one thing was clear. The thought of a rising star going toe-to-toe with Disney was enough to send shockwaves through the industry. And let's be honest, after that year's South Park episode, the rumors only got juicier. Now, add to that the drama involving Gal Gadot, and this whole production was looking more like a reality TV show than a movie set. Initially, Gadot was supposed to be the big draw. Fans couldn't wait to see her take on the iconic role of the evil queen. But behind the glitz and glam of casting announcements, reports started leaking about a brewing tension between her and Rachel Zegler. And, well, we all know how those behind-the-scenes issues eventually make their way to the public. The pair's awkwardness was on full display at a major event when they refused to interact with each other, and the internet went wild with speculation. Were they just acting like professionals, or was there something far more personal going on? At this point, it was clear. This film was less about magic and more about mounting drama. The whole lawsuit thing, no one could figure out if it was just a negotiation tactic or a real plan. But one thing was clear, the thought of a rising star going toe-to-toe with Disney was enough to send shockwaves through the industry. And let's be honest, after that South Park episode, the rumors only got juicier. Now, add to that the drama involving Gal Gadot, and this whole production was looking more like a reality TV show than a movie set. Initially, Gadot was supposed to be the big draw. Fans couldn't wait to see her take on the iconic role of the evil queen. But behind the glitz and glam of casting announcements, reports started leaking about a brewing tension between her and Rachel Zegler. And, well, we all know how those behind-the-scenes issues eventually make their way to the public. The pair's awkwardness was on full display at a major event when they refused to interact with each other, and the internet went wild with speculation. Were they just acting like professionals, or was there something far more personal going on? At this point, it was clear. This film was less about magic and more about mounting drama. What started as a fairy tale reboot spiraled into a full-blown behind-the-scenes meltdown, with drama leaking faster than the film's PR team could contain it. Speculation ran wild that Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot were butting heads over creative choices, with reports claiming Rachel was furious over Gal's improvised lines stealing the spotlight in crucial scenes. Things got so tense that entire sequences were allegedly cut just to keep Rachel from exploding, turning what was supposed to be a collaborative production into a one-woman power struggle. The South Park parody didn't help either. It mockingly showed Snow Snow White screeching at the evil queen for outshining her, and viewers couldn't help but laugh at how closely it mirrored real events. Instead of embracing the ensemble dynamic, the film became a cautionary tale of what happens when egos run wild and studio politics spiral out of control. Fans who were once excited now looked on in disbelief, watching their beloved classic turn into a meme-fueled circus where behind-the-scenes tension overshadowed the story itself. Man, this wasn't just a movie, it turned into a Disney Live circus show, and stuck right in the middle of it was Rachel Zegler, who thought she wasn't just rebranding Snow White, but the entire moral compass of Hollywood. But when South Park got its hands on this, the real spectacle began. An anonymous source revealed that Disney had secretly pressed the panic button, like, let's do something before South Park fires shots again. Their PR team was literally in war mode, on high alert, trying to figure out how to handle the situation if South Park made another roast. Bob Iger, known for his calm crisis handling, was looking more confused and pressured than ever. Critics were saying that this Snow White disaster was the perfect example of Disney's careless classic reimagining. First the box office failures, and now this tsunami of trolling. Rachel was in the spotlight, but this time she wasn't getting applause. She was getting fireballs. The old folks were saying, "Kid, learn to respect the film first," while some new fans were saying, "Rachel's being silenced." But the best commentary? South Park took the whole thing, roasted it, and made it their comedy goldmine. There were production leaks too, adding fuel to the fire. Tension had been building on set for months, with endless reshoots and rewrites. The third act was so reworked it seemed like someone had written the original plot on a Google Doc and hit delete. Iger was hinting in interviews that they were trying to stay away from controversial themes. But everyone knew this Snow White ghost wasn't leaving them anytime soon. Some said the changes were only surface level, like trying to fix a fracture with makeup. Rachel's star image was starting to melt. The same people who called her new talent now said, she has no clue how to handle this. On the other hand, some loyal fans were defending her, saying she's being unfairly targeted. But every time her statements turned into meme material, her reputation took a nosedive. And the funniest part? South Park didn't just roast Rachel, they roasted all of Disney. The executives were looking like headless chickens. Emergency meetings, panic PR drills, and desperate attempts to manage Rachel's unstoppable rants. It was so bad that some people started feeling sorry for Disney. Yeah, modernizing is tough, but not when the lead actress keeps dropping firestarter statements in every interview. Rumors kept rolling in. Supposed clashes between Rachel and Gal Gadot, speculation about reshoots, and rumors about musical scenes getting cut. Fans were going nuts. Every day a new theory. Was Rachel being turned into the villain? Was the release date being delayed? Was the movie getting canceled? Disney's official silence became the new PR strategy. Say something and you've got memes. Say nothing and the rumors keep piling up. And South Park? They were turning the whole controversy into a full-on comedy show. Rachel had turned into an absolute meme fest. The people who used to praise her performance were now saying, she's just a drama queen. Meanwhile, the producers silently watched, wondering, does this girl even have the patience to be a future lead star? And the fans, they were divided. Some were saying the traditional Snow White was outdated, it was time to upgrade, while others were saying, did we really need an upgrade or was this just a publicity stunt? And in the middle of all this, Gal Gadot, mostly silent, but her name kept popping up in the rumor mill. Was she irritated with Rachel? Was there a cold war between them? Nobody knew, but everyone was speculating. The most ironic part was that the actual content of the film took a back seat. No one was focusing on the visuals, the performances, or the epic portrayal of the villain. Everyone was just waiting to see which new spark is going to ignite today. Corporate chaos had reached a level we hadn't seen before, but this time, the level of memeification was off the charts. People were saying, this isn't a Snow White remake, this is a masterclass in PR disaster. Iger was in a tight spot. Either control the fire or let this circus burn out quietly. The real lesson here, the biggest risk with remake culture was exposed. If you don't respect the legacy and sell controversy in the name of modernization, you're going to face a backlash tsunami. Rachel's modern take started a bonfire that everyone jumped into, and it just got bigger and bigger. This meltdown didn't happen because of one thing. It was a cocktail of chaos, an outspoken actress, a confused studio, rumored clashes, constant cancellations, and on top of it all, South Park's 20-ton punch punchline. Every element played its part, creating the ultimate disaster. By the time the film was set to release, the narrative was already damaged. Rachel was in passive rebellion mode against Disney, and Disney was trying to patch up the whole mess with duct tape. Gal Gadot was mostly silent, but there was still fire around her. Fans were confused. Would this movie be worth watching or just another meme generator? South Park delivered the final mic drop. Bob Iger, known for his calm crisis handling, was looking more confused and pressured than ever.